Ladies and gentlemen, now today we've got an absolute ton of 5-star Captain Marvel gameplay in Act 6 Chapter 2, and just to keep in mind as well, none of this gameplay that you're going to see today is with the Suicide Masteries or any boost at all. And Captain Marvel, she synergizes quite well with the Suicide Masteries, especially with her immunity, so all of the damage output that you see today can actually be greatly increased both via suicides and also using boost as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And also, you got to keep in mind that with Captain Marvel, she's a bit of a ramp-up champion. So the first fight that you see with Captain Marvel in any particular quest isn't going to be that impressive. But once you get to Binary Ignition, this character is absolutely insane. So this first matchup, you know, she's doing fairly well here. But this is the ramp-up matchup. So we've taken a lot of damage due to the Icarus node. But now we're fully ramped up. We've got the 20+ stacks of Binary Ignition, which allows us to almost immediately enter Binary Ignition in the next fight that you're going to see, and also start with a huge chunk of power as well. So we immediately go into Binary Ignition, and because of the Icarus node as well, every time we attack, we're gaining Fury. However, because of her invulnerability, we are immune to the degeneration for 12 seconds, and that's all the time we need to sink a 200k health Ronin. Next matchup, we've got another like 180k, 200k Medusa here. You can see we're at 24 stacks of Binary Ignition. We get another parry, go for 25 there, fire off the special too, some absolutely colossal hits there. Medusa is dead in 16 hits. To the best of my knowledge, I have not seen any Captain Marvel gameplay thus far against Icarus, but she is, I think, you know, easily one of the top 3 options. She's definitely up there with Aegon and also, I believe, Ghost for this node. I think Corvus Glaive works as well, but I don't think I've seen any champion work as quick and efficiently as Captain Marvel does. This champion is just crazy. Look at that Emma Frost, mate. You just didn't even see that fight. It was just over so incredibly fast. So once you get through that first fight on Icarus, man, it's just easy game, easy life. Next up, we have Massacre. So we start this one with 19 stacks of Binary Ignition. We get the parries, and again, once we get a or let a Fury expire, we're going to start to degenerate, so we time it pretty well there. We've got like 19 stacks of Fury, fire off a special too. Don't even get the crits, man, but this Massacre is absolutely slaughtered. Now, this is one of the trickier fights when it comes to 100% in this chapter, which is the 15% buffet Mr. Sinister with a 200% cornered node. So this guy has about 200,000 health, 15% buffet, so a really, really big regeneration here. So what we want to do is we want to bait out the buffet, kind of trigger that one so it doesn't consume like any of our Furies or are indestructible, and then enter Binary Ignition. So we triggered it, you know, very indirectly right at the start, but now I just want to trigger it one more time to get rid of that node, kind of top him up to full, and then we're going to parry him, go into Binary Ignition, and just absolutely nuke this man. And with all the armor breaks and the Despair Mastery as well, whenever we do land a critical hit, it's greatly mitigating the healing. So yeah, we just absolutely tore through one of the hardest fights in 100% like it was absolutely nothing. That was like an Act 4 fight. It was so ridiculous. And again, I'm unboosted in this video. I don't have Suicide Masteries. You could get a lot more damage output. Next fight, which is a little bit tricky as well, is we have the Biohazard Abomination. So he's got, you know, effectively the bleed node when you attack into him, and also you can't use any robots in this one because of the toxic splash node. So we're getting to Binary Ignition, just have that full invulnerability there, and then we're going to nuke into this man. So we've got the 12 seconds of invulnerability where we take absolutely no poison damage, and this is a 220k Abomination. Slap, that man is straight in the bin. Like, he was absolute trash there. Looking at some Aegon videos as well, because I think he's kind of, you know, arguably the best, or the talk of who's the best at the moment. If you use Aegon, you're still taking a lot of damage, whereas Captain Marvel, because you have this 12-second period of invulnerability, and you've also got so many hits on your special attack as well, you're just bursting through these fights before, you know, you even have a chance to take damage. The only, like, real drawback to Captain Marvel is that very first fight when you've got to build up all those charges, but once you've done done that, then it's easy game, easy life, and that coincides, you know, maybe quite well if you have the mastery, which increases your damage when you're below 50%, because you'll get an even more burst damage because of that mastery there. But once the special 2 is just off, it's game over, boys. It's absolute game over. She's just crazy. Now, the only fight I did die here, and this is entirely my mistake, because I was trying to play a little bit smart, a little bit cautious with the Limber Note, is the Omega Red boss, and the mistake that I make here is being not aggressive enough and wasting a lot of time on the invulnerability. So you can see at the start, you know, we wasted a good like 5 seconds. I should have parried like right off the bat and gone in. So the invulnerability here is about to expire, but also the boss, in all fairness, does have a bit of a larger health pool here, and I don't think we were super lucky on the crits, but if we had a bit more of an aggressive start, we probably would have been able to kill a Mega Red. However, one very cheap 20% revive, and we are up again. We just need to land, you know, 2 more parries, and this man is going to get absolutely ruined here. So we're going for that final parry, get a 5 combo, link up to the special 2, fire that one off in Assassins, and it's easy game, easy life. That was one of the smoothest, the fastest runs I've seen in that chapter, man. It was so good. Now, at this point, I imagine some of you that are not too familiar with Captain Marvel are probably going, you know, Captain Marvel, she only seems so good because of the huge attack bonus provided by the Icarus note. So what I wanted to do next was take her into the final chapter. Now, the final chapter has absolutely no global note, so these are just fights on their own, and this being the final chapter of Act 6, Chapter 2, the PI and also health pools of these champions are kind of very much inflated. They have around between like 160 to 220k. We're going to take against a Stark-Enhanced Spider-Man, against an Abomination, against a Morning Star, Human Torch, and also Iceman as well. So you can see how Captain Marvel performs in various matchups. And again, if you remember from the first quest, the first fight with Captain Marvel, before you have those stacks of Binary Ignition in the bank, is always going to be the worst fight. So the Stark-Enhanced Spider-Man one starts off very, very slow here, but now we got those charges, we're really starting to see some very good damage. However, we don't have the ability to, you know, immediately special 2 and start hammering that damage to kind of ramp up the armor breaks and see those really, really big numbers. And also in this fight, I'm trying to throw off a few heavy attacks as well, just so we can keep refreshing the stacks of Binary Ignition, because every time you use a heavy, you get 3 of those. So it's good to, you know, have upcoming fights so that we can immediately get into some of the action there. But overall, for about 160k Spider-Man, that wasn't bad. 50 hits, some very above average damage output there. But again, that was the warm-up fight for the majority, like 34 hits. We had significantly reduced damage because we were not in Binary Ignition. So next fight, Abomination, we can really start to see how Captain Marvel performs. And this is a 220k Abomination here, once you can start the fight with Binary Ignition active. So we're going for 2 5 combos. We've got 4 armor breaks. We slap off the special 2 there, get some really nice damage. He's already teetering just to about 50% there. We go for a quick dodge on the special 2, get back in, get nuke in. So about 23 hits in, this guy's on 40% here. And then what we want to do is just find an opening to 5 combo, then throw a special 2, and then we have the opportunity to finish this one off. I think instead of a 5 combo, I threw a heavy attack there, again, just to refresh the stacks of Binary Ignition, so that when we move into the next fight, which is the really stacked version of Morning Star, we can immediately get in and start dealing big damage, because, you know, it's a little bit of a race against the clock with Morning Star's bleed damage, especially when she's very, very stacked up like this one is. So, you know, you might think that Captain Marvel just, you know, straight up wouldn't work for Morning Star, but she has the damage output to carry a matchup if you've got her fully maxed out. However, again, if you are using like a rank 4 version for progression and you have on the Suicide Masteries and Boost, you're going to see a very, very similar performance to this. If you've got Suicides and Boost, it's actually probably going to be a bit greater, even at a rank 4 version of Captain Marvel. So yeah, get a couple of heavies there just to get the stacks of Binary Ignition up. We're about 20 hits in, she's on 50%. Then we hammer in another 5 combo, chain onto a special 2 to deal some big damage and also get this last stunned. Unfortunately, we didn't get any crits on that, so that is a little bit annoying, but we heavy attack and then going for another 5 combo there. And yeah, that was a pretty good takedown of Morning Star, 39 hits there. So Captain Marvel, on average, was dealing at, you know, just over 4,000 damage every single hit there, even with the class disadvantage in play, which was a fantastic performance. Now, next up is an Incinerate node Human Torch, and because of the way Captain Marvel absorbs energy damage and converts it into binary charges, you'll see that she pretty much immediately goes to binary ignition and shrugs it off, which is a really, really good time. So we've got some mad damage now. We can just absolutely nuke into this lad. One thing to note about the Human Torch matchup, though, is the special 2 on Captain Marvel is energy damage, so it does give Human Torch like charges of Smolder, which increase the chance to incinerate when attacking into him. So yeah, it's a little bit of a risky one, but you can see here, this is about a 200k Human Torch. Captain Marvel still handled it with little to no problem, didn't really take any damage there, even with an Incinerate node in play. To be honest, the Incinerate node, man, was just, you know, immediately shrugged off and just allowed us to get into the damage phase a little bit faster. But 34 hits for that Human Torch, a really, really decent matchup. And again, another strong matchup for Captain Marvel is any fight where there's energy damage at the start, and Iceman is a perfect example of this because of his Cold Snap mechanic. She's going to generate binary charges very, very quickly, and then as soon as she enters binary ignition, when she gets 25, she's going to remove that debuff and also gain invulnerability for the 12 seconds on my max Sig one here. However, I do make a couple of mistakes in this Iceman matchup toward the end, and also we lost the stun there because he had ice armor as well. So yeah, this wasn't the smoothest matchup. I think you're going to see some of my mistakes because I totally forgot about the Limber node. However, the Nick Fury evade synergy with Ant-Man totally saved my ass there, man. It was a really, really good time on Iceman's special one, but also I did lose all of my evade charges there. So yeah, because of this 20% Limber node, I can't really like stun him and finish this fight exactly how I want to by throwing off some heavy attacks, but still, you know, a very stacked Iceman. We got him down, didn't take too much damage despite the slip-ups. Captain Marvel's still alive, so it's a big win there. Now, another quest where Captain Marvel really shines in Act 6 Chapter 2 is the second quest, aka the Mr. Sinister chapter with Backblast. So what Backblast does is it doubles your crit damage. However, if you deal more than 5% of the opponent's max health, then you're going to take a very hefty Incinerate debuff. However, the massive pro here is with Captain Marvel, when you have binary ignition, you are going to be dealing so much damage, and also you have the 12 seconds of invulnerability. So if you get some lucky crits at the start, then you have the ability to destroy the opponent before you are taking any damage back from that node. And yeah, this node kind of really plays to the favor of Captain Marvel because it kind of rewards big bursty champions, and she is probably one of the top 5 characters definitely for this chapter, I would say, and also a viable option for the final Mr. Sinister as well, because she's a poison immune champion. She also has Fury, and you also will have the the 12 seconds of indestructible at the start to mitigate maybe a little bit of shock damage as well. But that was the first fight. It was the ramp up fight, getting the charges of binary ignition. However, the next fight on this path is a little bit of a tricky one that I had to play a bit differently because it's a really annoying version of Darkhawk that starts with null mode active for 30 seconds, and while he has this mode active, his medium and also light attacks, basically any of his normal combo, is completely unblockable. So yeah, in this matchup, because he's unblockable and I can't parry, I need an opportunity to intercept, kind of knock him down with the special one, and then like start building up my stacks of binary ignition from then on out. So we knock him over, we throw him into shield mode here, we block that, which actually puts us into binary ignition just because the special one had energy damage to block there, so I totally forgot about that interaction. Now we're throwing the heavy attack just to kind of keep those charges up. Also doing that combo of, you know, like parry, medium, and the heavy allows me to completely ignore shield mode. So in terms of like all of the matchups on this path, Darkhawk is probably the most tricky out of all of them, but we also do have an Iron Man Infinity War ahead as well. But to, you know, showcase Captain Marvel, I really did want to bring her to some of the more difficult and trickier matchups today so that we could really showcase some of the potential of this lass. However, I do think for this Darkhawk, if you're looking for the absolute best matchup, like Medusa is the way to go, just because Medusa completely shuts down Darkhawk because he is classified as a robot. So as soon as you can get, you know, that armor shatter on him, you've completely won the game there. Bit of a risky heavy there actually, man, because he did have a 30% chance to miss, but we're not doing too bad. However, we don't have that invulnerability up at the moment, so we did take a little bit of incinerate damage from the Backblast node there, and you can see just how lethal it can be, man. I've been absolutely nuked down pretty much by a single incinerate there. We throw off another heavy attack, another very, very cheeky one, wins us that matchup there. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a sketchy fight against Darkhawk at some time, but we still managed to get him down in 36 hits, so it was a successful matchup nonetheless, and you're going to see on a champion that doesn't have the mitigation that Darkhawk has. Venom, we've got 181k Venom, and in this matchup, I don't have the class advantage, but really see the potential in this fight of Captain Marvel just versus like a blank slate like Venom. You can see when we're crit man, we're triggering the Incinerate, but we're not taking any damage from it because of the node. We fire off that special too, and yeah, Venom is down in 16 hits, so it's pretty much like the Icarus chapter all over again in your bog standard normal matchup, which is a really, really great time. The next opponent, however, is an Iron Man Infinity War, so we don't have an easy time on the next matchup here, because Iron Man Infinity War, especially with an aggression armor node, is going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but one of the pros of Captain Marvel is the amount of armor breaks that she has, especially in binary ignition as well. I think all of her attacks have something like a 60% chance to inflict armor break, so it really does help kind of constantly strip the stacks of armor up that Iron Man Infinity War is getting. And then we throw off a special 2 there. We go in, we're a little bit late on the go in there, so we go for a heavy attack, another heavy attack, then we chain on a special 1, it's unblockable here, and I think we go for another heavy attack. I probably should have died there, but we didn't die, and it works, so that was, again, a bit of a jammy finish, lads, but a successful one nonetheless. So a great showcase from Captain Marvel about how she can be a really cheesy champion at some points for getting the opponent down. So yeah, I just don't know how we won that one, man. I should have got special 3'd on a couple of occasions and died there. Then we have the Heimdall matchup. So Heimdall, you know, is a bit of a pain in the ass if he's left alive too long, and if you ever get him above a special 1, he can start causing real problems. However, if you can get him down with the first special 2, then, you know, he isn't really too much of a threat. So yeah, pretty efficient way to deal with your Heimdalls there with a stacked up version of Captain Marvel. Worked out really, really well. And then finally as well, we've also got the Freezer Burn Sentinel in this chapter. So this is the one that's kind of like a, what is it, like Biohazard is Poison and Bleed, and Freezer Burn is essentially like Cold Snap and Incinerate. However, if you can kill the opponent before you start taking all this damage, it's a pretty good time, man. It works out pretty well. And Sentinel, we do have the class advantage here, so this is a really nice matchup as well. Just absolutely slaughtered that lad. Looking at the tier list, I really do feel like I've underrated Captain Marvel. She's currently in the God tier, but I believe there is a very strong argument for this champion now to be moved to the Beyond God tier column. She's got so many practical uses amongst so much endgame content, and I feel as time goes on and on, she's just going to have more and more value. I think looking at a lot of the fights and the Captain Marvel gameplay that I've seen popping up, I don't think there's much doubt in my mind that she's definitely up there now with the level of performance of a Beyond God tier champion. I just think she's so crazy, and I think that I have underrated her a little bit, and the invulnerability and the awakened ability I didn't think was going to be that useful, but now we're seeing all sorts of crazy scenarios where you can really hammer home and take advantage of that. So yeah, let me know what you think of Captain Marvel in the comments section below. Should she be moved up to Beyond God tier? Smash that like button if you did enjoy today's video. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.